Christopher Nolan is my favorite movie director of all time. There, I said it, and a lot of you will probably disagree. He's one of the main reasons I even got into movies in the first place. That doesn't mean he'll still be my favorite director in 2 years, but his movies have shaped my love for movies more than any other director out there. Because the Odyssey is releasing in a few days, I'm looking at every single one of his movies to see why so many people, including myself, love his work so much and how it all led to this moment. And then by the end, I'll be ranking all of his movies. Spoiler warning for all of Nolan's movies.
Where am I?
Nolan's first studio film is already a banger. I watched it for the first time on Thursday, and the first thing that immediately jumped out to me was how Nolan has already incorporated his signature move of playing with time into the movie. That kind of surprised me because I thought that might have been a bit less in the beginning of his career, especially since the next few movies are pretty linear, chronologically speaking. But this movie just didn't really reach me emotionally because I couldn't really connect with Guy Pearce's character. He plays Leonard, a guy looking for vengeance because two people killed his wife and one is still on the run. The movie's obviously already fantastic just because of the great concept and how Nolan manages to create tension even though the movie is basically told backwards. So from an execution standpoint, the movie is just flawless and some of his best work. But for me, flawless execution doesn't automatically mean an emotional 5 out of 5. And in terms of emotion, this one doesn't quite reach the grades. Maybe because of those constant fade to blacks, maybe the resolution, or maybe the too subtle score, maybe the mix of all three. Still, a strong 4 out of 5. This movie definitely showed Hollywood that Nolan is a name to watch. And speaking of names to watch, I'm reviewing The Odyssey on Sunday or Monday, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that.
Gotham must be destroyed.
After Insomnia came his first major Hollywood blockbuster, Batman Begins. That movie arrived when the Batman brand was practically dead because of Batman and Robin. But the skepticism turned out to be unfounded. I love the first half, probably the best Bruce Wayne origin story we've gotten. The second half gets a bit sillier once we hit the CGI heavy action, but this is the first movie where Nolan really shows that he can direct shots to feel epic, which is going to be useful for the Odyssey. I mean, the sequence where Bruce Wayne wants to go to the League of Shadows just still holds up today. And for the first time, the score genuinely enriches the movie. A solid 4 out of 5.
Are you watching closely?
Just a year later, Nolan released The Prestige, and this one I really like. The Prestige is very Nolan in terms of its high concept. I mean, we have an interesting premise of two magicians trying to outperform each other for the ultimate magic trick while sharing a traumatic experience. This may be his most perfectly constructed movie, not a minute too long nor too short, great casting decisions, and as the cherry on top, a twist that blew me away. I really love this one, absolutely fantastic. After the moderate success of Batman Begins and the critical and audience praise, it was time for the first sequel in Nolan's history. And what a sequel that was.
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
The Dark Knight is obviously a fantastic movie and probably the best superhero movie of all time. And I feel like everything I'd have to say about this one, you've already heard. The only two things that I think may be interesting for you are, for one, I actually wasn't fully convinced this movie lived up to the hype when I watched it for the first time. I mean, I liked it, but after all of the hype I built up from reading online about how great this movie is, I actually expected more. But now, after having watched it for 3 times, the movie has just improved on each rewatch, and I hope I can watch it in IMAX one day. That leads me to the second point, which is very important for The Odyssey. This is the first movie from Nolan that included sequences shot on IMAX film. So basically, this movie was the birth of the IMAX-obsessed Nolan that we now know. And obviously, The Odyssey is going to be shot fully in IMAX 70mm. Yeah, this movie is obviously a 5 out of 5 for me.
So, do you want to take a leap of faith? Or become an old man, filled with regret, waiting to die alone?
Now, after the success of The Dark Knight, Nolan basically got a blank check just to make any movie he wants, and voila, we got Inception, a movie that absolutely smashes it in every regard and truly showed us Nolan's strengths, but also his weaknesses. The movie just fully sends it with a high concept. I mean, it's a heist movie, but instead of robbing a bank or a casino, how about just planting an idea into the head of somebody while dreaming? Nolan really goes wild with that concept of being able to enter dreams and do stuff in there. In my opinion, this movie has the most interesting protagonist of any Nolan movie. I could really connect emotionally with Don Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, which makes the film so much better for me. Also, the visuals are just fantastic. You can just see the full $200 million budget on display here. While this movie is my favorite, it has been growing more and more after each rewatch, which is why I give it another 5 out of 5. I really can't stop rewatching it. Now, in terms of the Odyssey, I would say Inception is a movie where Nolan could truly make his vision come to life and fuel it with spectacle because of the lack of constraints in basically any direction. Also, this is one of his movies which heavily relies on the score to carry the movie. And it all worked out. It was a massive success. And I think we can expect something similar for the Odyssey because Oppenheimer was just such a success.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
This one was probably his first film to actually get bashed by a real chunk of audience and critics. A big reason is that it's a step down from The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's death meant that Nolan couldn't really bring back Joker. Bane takes over as the villain instead, and Tom Hardy makes him a genuinely great physical threat, even if he's not Joker level. But emotionally, this is actually the strongest Batman movie for me. Every Alfred scene gets me, and I love the ending, but there are some flaws. I mean, in terms of time left to save the day, Bane's plan just makes no sense. And the Talia al Ghul twist just strips his authority and turns him into a henchman instead of the big bad. I still love the practical set pieces and the trilogy's best score, a 4 out of 5. This is the movie that proved that Nolan movies can also have problems, which we can see by looking at the skepticism towards the Odyssey in the trailers.
Very graceful.
Interstellar silenced anyone who doubted Nolan's talent. I don't know a single person who doesn't at least like the movie. And I adore it. It was the first Nolan movie I ever watched at 14, and I was blown away by how realistic space looked, while never losing the emotional core of a father played by Matthew McConaughey, just trying to get back to his daughter again. And do we need to talk about that score? Hans Zimmer has never been better, and I genuinely need a great score for a movie to hit the 4 out of 5 to 5 out of 5 range for me. The common criticisms are the exposition dumps and the slightly cheesy love saves everything ending, but they didn't bother me at all. My only real gripe is pacing. It runs a bit long, so that's why I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5. In terms of relevance for the Odyssey, this one shows how much Nolan values a stacked cast. I mean, McConaughey, Chastain, Hathaway, Chalamet, Kane, Affleck, the list goes on and on.
Well done.
All we did is survive.
That's enough.
Now, Dunkirk goes all in on Nolan's love of playing with time, and it's probably his movie with the least dialogue. The score is one of his weaker ones, the plot is thin, and characters stay flat on purpose, because they're placeholders for the soldiers who live through it. What Nolan pushes to the extreme here is pure tension building and releasing, a skill he'll lean on hard for the Cyclops sequence in The Odyssey. This film is also the second film with cameraman Hoyte van Hoytema, cementing him as Nolan's go-to for The Odyssey too. I enjoyed this one as well, but it didn't really hit me emotionally as much, so 3.5 to 4 out of 5.
You want to crash a plane, but not from the air. Don't be so dramatic.
Tenet is his most disliked movie, by no doubt. Nolan pushes the time concept here to the extreme again with inversion, and while fun, it's just really confusing. I've always liked the idea of Nolan making his own Bond movie, and Washington and Pattinson do a good job, but the characters just stay flat. Washington's literally called the protagonist. Still, the movie has its moments to shine. I mean, the opening opera scene, the plane crash, the fire truck scene, the inverted fights. What Nolan specifically took from this one, though, for The Odyssey is Ludwig Göransson, who stepped in for Hans Zimmer and just delivered. And based on the trailers, he's done it again. 3.5 out of 5.
Except it's the most remote possibility. How remote? Chances are near zero. Near zero.
Alright, we're almost at the final ranking. Last but not least, we have Oppenheimer. This is actually the only movie from Nolan that I watched in theaters and in IMAX, and it was a phenomenal experience. Not only because of the practical bomb, which was impressive but still slightly underwhelming, but the movie's structure impressed me far more. This movie is basically a 3-hour-long montage sequence, and like in Memento, it gives you puzzle pieces of information until you get the full picture of destruction, the egos involved, and Oppenheimer himself. But unlike Memento, through the movie's rhythm, it just sucked me right in and didn't let me go until the end. But the most interesting thing is, the first 2 hours probably shouldn't work as well as they do. I mean, it's basically 1.5 hour of dense exposition. But that's kind of the trick, because through the chaos, jumping between all the different timelines, Nolan is basically like secretly laying the setup the whole time. And from the moments the Trinity test hits, all of that setup starts to pay off in a way that's just so satisfying, I couldn't believe my eyes. This is just masterful direction and especially editing. As always, the performances are fantastic, the VFX as well, and the score is probably my second favorite behind Interstellar. Absolutely fantastic movie and fully deserves its $975 million at the box office. For me, another perfect movie from Nolan, though I have to say, watching it at home is just not the same as in IMAX, so I hope they will re-release it near me someday. 5 out of 5 for me. The thing that Nolan will take from this movie to the Odyssey is the studio. Because Warner wanted to shorten his theatrical window, he moved to Universal for this one, and the Odyssey will also be from Universal. Also, because this movie made so much money, he was basically handed a blank check for the Odyssey, which is why the movie cost a whole $250 million. Now, let's go to the ranking. Without further ado, here it is. Okay, in 10th place we have Tenet with a 3.5 out of 5. Good movie, but not great. Dunkirk is at 9th place with a 3.5 to 4 out of 5. In 8th place we have Batman Begins with a 4 out of 5. In 7th place we have Memento with a 4 out of 5. In 6th place we have The Dark Knight Rises with a 4 to 4.5 out of 5 even. In 5th place we have Interstellar with a 4.5 out of 5. Now, quick note before we reach the top 4. All of these movies are a 5 out of 5, so they're all perfect movies. And I basically ranked them on like rewatchability and like what movie just stayed in my mind for the most. Now at number 4 we have The Dark Knight, 5 out of 5 for me. Then at number 3 we have The Prestige, another 5 out of 5. At number 2 we have Inception. And at number 1, you've guessed it already, it's Oppenheimer, 5 out of 5. If you want to see what happens when a massive blockbuster completely fails, please check out this video about Supergirl, because that movie just flopped completely. And you'll get to see why it actually flopped so hard. Alright, that's been it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.